shocked me the most. 50% of employees who left the business or were made redundant took data with them. So half of the people that left business took corporate data with them. And these are the people that admitted it as well. Because we're changing the way we access data, we need to think about mobile, we need to think about the handsets we use. So the most dangerous piece of equipment you've probably got in your pocket, or a lot of you will have in your pocket today, is an Android phone. Most of the malware being written today is for Android. In terms of cybercrime, the losses in the UK alone in cybercrime, so this is fraud and losses in terms of downtime, totaled £670 million last year. And the other thing, there's new emerging areas of threat are around the Internet of Things, and we see now predicted around 50 billion devices connected to the internet by the year 2020, which is incredible, and obviously Wi-Fi is helping to produce that, and that's everything from fridges to your car. I'm sure a lot of people will have heard about the story about, I'm not sure which manufacturer it was, but getting their car hacked effectively and being able to take a car off the road because they'd hacked into the engine management system wirelessly. Incredible, but these things are possible now. We have cloud services increasingly popular now, so things like Dropbox and things like Google Drive and iCloud. The number of times I go into businesses and they say we've no idea where people are putting their data, they're probably using Dropbox and they're probably using something else, and these people, when they start doing this, are doing it for business purposes. They're saying, well, I need to get this document to a supplier and this is the best way of doing it, or I need to get this document home and this seems like the easiest way of transmitting that data. But they're not really considering the security implications of doing that. So we've got a whole load of complexity, and this is why a lot of businesses do tend to go, I just want to think about this, it's too complex, there's too much to think about. But that's where Sophos comes in, and they're ticking pretty much every single security box with their product, the product range, and the guys will take you through that later on today.
We have this Sophos threat counter. I don't know if anyone's seen it before, but basically this is our attempt at a visual representation as just the amount of work and effort that people in our global team called Sophos Labs go to every single day to provide protection to our customers' endpoints. So, John, if you could hit start on that for me. Essentially, this is just a counter of their average kind of samples that they see in things like spam messages, for suspicious Android apps, suspicious file samples, and then URLs and domains that we see out there on the World Wide Web.
So IT security these days as well is making the headlines, so you can't have failed to really notice the stuff that's going on. The big thing for me though is particularly these two. So cyber attackers now targeting small and mid-sized businesses, and are you prepared? Record number of attacks on small business. It is increasing. This isn't something that's kind of going away. The chances are that people will kind of bury their head in the sand until that major event happens, and then they'll go, well, how could we have been more secure? What should we now be doing to protect it? Rather than thinking about it in advance and saying, well, what are the key areas we need to address, and what are the least likely things to happen, and therefore we don't need to consider at this stage. So this is from, I think, 1998, this particular scam, and this is the old, I'm a Nigerian prince and I've got $200 million and I need you to wire me 80 quid and I'll give you $2 million in return. So it was kind of, it wasn't very sophisticated. It was pretty basic, the attack, but it worked. Bizarrely, it worked. So they had on some of these scams, they had a 1% success rate. That's pretty high. But now we've got a much more sophisticated area of attack. We've got things like keyloggers, phishing emails, fake websites. We've got infected genuine sites, that are downloading payloads. And obviously we've got now people being targeted via social media to release information and SMS text messages as well. So we've got a much, much more sophisticated attack area.
We'll go back to Chuck for a minute then. So some of the stuff you can do, and this process really is very similar every single time he performs an attack. And this could, I suppose, be worded as like an advanced persistent threat or an advanced attack. But his process is incredibly simple. First off, what he wants to do is perform reconnaissance, right? So he could spend weeks, months, years finding out why he wants to target your business, for an abundance of different reasons. Go and find as much information as you can about this domain, about this organization, and feed it back to me. So, for example, email credentials, or email details, and it went away and found a load of publicly available emails which I could potentially use in social engineering attacks or spear phishing, right? Or, of course, I can get this list and I can then go off into linkedin.com, see if they're still around, and then find out a bit more about their information, who they're connected to. The imagination of the hacker really is the limit in this kind of thing. We also then have the DNS records. Okay, we have domain hosts. There we go. So the next thing I need to think about with reconnaissance, right, is also then how I'm going to lead on to actually performing an attack. So after you've got the details about the organization, I need to think electronically. So I need to think, okay, what is your, the IP addresses that you're actually using for your organization? And then once I've got the IP addresses, I need to move on to things like, okay, what ports are active and what services are running on those ports, and then potentially what applications, operating systems. Then of course it's just a simple case of doing some Googling, go what vulnerabilities exist, and then I could potentially launch my exploits. And that's how he would think, and that's how it works for him.
This is another method which caught my eye this week, which was a Chinese hacker out in China who was doing work for companies that were using data centers. And what she'd done is she'd 3D printed some shoes, which sounds amazing, but you can 3D print pretty much everything these days. She'd 3D printed shoes with a drawer in them, with a whole load of hacking kit in them. She then turns up in not wearing very much, it has to be said, so she gets straight through security. Once she's in there, she's got batteries, she's got routers, and she's got a lock-picking kit and USB devices which enable her to then hack into the systems of that particular customer and show just how insecure those data centers are. This is quite an interesting case, and there is a bit of sort of stuff flying around that this might not be genuine, but certainly the shoes and the idea would work. And it uses a similar technique to magicians use, so it's misdirection. So I'm going to cause you to look over here, while actually what I'm doing is somewhere over here. So it's that idea of misdirection. And this is just another example of social engineering and how the attacks are changing. They're getting more and more sophisticated. Security is a bit like you close all your doors and you lock them all and then you leave a window open. And that is kind of how security can quite easily be described. It's no longer point solutions. It's looking at the home as a whole and it's saying, what do we need to do to protect the whole house?
How far?
39.3.
39.3, not bad.
God, that is exhausting.